It was a bright Monday morning when Marcus stepped off the bus at Lincoln High School. He had moved from another city just a week ago, and everything felt strange. The hallways were crowded with students laughing, shouting, and rushing to their classes. Marcus carried his backpack tightly on his shoulder, trying to make himself small, hoping no one would notice him. But it was hard. Being the new kid always drew attention, and he knew it. As he walked through the hallway, he could feel eyes staring at him. Some students whispered to each other, pointing. Marcus tried to ignore them. He told himself, "Just get to your class. Don't cause trouble. Stay quiet." But trouble had a way of finding him. He reached his locker and started arranging his books when he heard a voice. "Hey, look who it is." The new kid. Marcus looked up and saw a group of 3 boys standing a few feet away. They were taller, older, and wore the kind of confident smirks that made everyone uneasy. One of them, the leader, stepped closer. "What's up, new kid? You lost or something?" The boy sneered. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He wanted to run, but his feet stayed frozen. He swallowed hard and said quietly, "I'm just looking for my class." The bully laughed loudly, attracting the attention of nearby students. "Looking for your class, huh? Maybe you'll get lost and never come back." His friends laughed along. Marcus felt heat rush to his cheeks. He wanted to fight back with words, but he remembered what his mother told him. Don't fight with anger. Show strength in your actions, not in shouting. So he stayed quiet, pretending to be calm, even though his heart was pounding. The bell rang, signaling the start of classes. Students began moving, some glancing at Marcus with curiosity, others with judgment. The bullies didn't move. They just watched, waiting. During the first class, Marcus kept his head down, trying to focus on his notes. But every sound outside the classroom made him nervous. He felt like everyone could sense he was new. He knew this week would be hard. At lunch, Marcus walked to the cafeteria, carrying his tray. He scanned for an empty table, but all the tables seemed full. As he stepped closer to one of the bullies shouted, "Hey, new kid! Don't sit there. That's our table." Marcus froze again. He had hoped to avoid conflict, but it seemed impossible. He looked around and found a smaller table in the corner. As he walked, he could feel whispers following him. Some students stared with curiosity, some with pity, and some with amusement. Sitting alone, Marcus took a deep breath. He opened his lunch bag and tried to focus on eating, but it was difficult. He could feel eyes on him, even from across the room. Then something surprising happened. A girl from his class waved at him. She smiled and gestured to join her table. "Hey, you can sit here if you want." Don't mind them. Marcus felt a spark of hope. Maybe not everyone would be against him. He walked over slowly, nodding thanks. As he sat, he noticed the bullies staring at him from the other side of the cafeteria. Their faces were serious now, not laughing. Marcus realized this was only the beginning. He knew one thing for sure. He had to be careful. These bullies weren't just teasing for fun, they were testing him, and he couldn't let them break him. He took another deep breath, squared his shoulders, and thought, "I won't let them win. I'll show them I'm not easy to push around." As lunch ended, Marcus gathered his things, ready for the next class. He didn't know what challenges awaited him, but he felt a tiny spark of determination. The new kid had arrived, and though the bullies had made a first move, Marcus was not someone who could be ignored or forgotten. Cliffhanger. As he walked down the hallway to his next class, he noticed the leader of the bullies standing in the doorway, blocking the way. His smirk was wider than before. Marcus's heart raced. What would happen next? The next morning, Marcus walked into school with a mix of nervousness and determination. He had survived the first day, but he knew the bullies were still watching. Their smirks had followed him into the cafeteria yesterday. And today, he could feel their eyes scanning every step he took as he passed the lockers. He noticed the leader of the bullies, Jake, leaning against the wall with his usual grin. Behind him, 2 others waited, their arms crossed, clearly ready to cause trouble. Marcus tried to walk past them quickly, but Jake stepped in front of him, blocking his way. "Going somewhere, new kid?" Jake said, his voice dripping with mockery. Marcus hesitated but kept his gaze forward. "To class," he said firmly. class. Or are you going to hide in the corner all day? Jake laughed, and his friends joined in. The hallway echoed with their laughter, making Marcus feel even smaller. A crowd started forming around them. Some students whispered and pointed, while others tried to walk past, pretending not to notice. Marcus's heart pounded. He wanted to push them, shout or run, but he remembered his mother's words. Control your anger. Strength comes from patience. He took a deep breath and said calmly, I'm not afraid of you. The words surprised Jake. For a moment his grin faltered. He hadn't expected the new kid to speak back without trembling. Not afraid? We'll see about that, Jake said. He shoved Marcus lightly, trying to provoke a reaction. Marcus stumbled but didn't fall. Instead, he stepped back and squared his shoulders. Why do you always pick on people? Marcus asked quietly, but clearly. The hallway went silent for a second. Some students stared, impressed by Marcus's courage. Jake's face darkened, his pride hurt by the simple question. You think you can talk to me like that? Jake shouted, grabbing Marcus's backpack. Marcus yanked it back quickly, holding it close. His palms were sweaty, but his mind was sharp. Suddenly, the school bell rang loudly. Teachers started moving through the hallway, and the crowd began to scatter. Jake glared at Marcus, muttering under his breath, This isn't over. Marcus continued to his class, feeling a mix of fear and relief. He knew he had survived the first real test. But he also knew that Jake and his friends would not stop easily. They wanted to dominate, to make sure no one dared challenge them during the lesson. Marcus's mind kept returning to the morning incident. He realized he had two choices. Keep hiding and hoping things would get easier, or stand firm and show them that bullying would not work on him. He chose the second option, silently promising himself that he would not let fear control him. At lunch, Marcus returned to the corner table, feeling more confident than yesterday. The girl who had welcomed him smiled again, giving him a nod of encouragement. Don't let them bother you, she whispered. Marcus nodded, grateful for the small support. But just as he started eating, he noticed Jake and his friends approaching. They didn't come alone this time. They had brought a few others with them. The hallway had turned into a stage, and the cafeteria was their audience. One of the bullies knocked Marcus's tray, spilling his food. Laughter erupted around them. Marcus felt anger rise, but he held it in. He could feel his hands clenching, his heart racing. Instead of reacting angrily, he picked up his tray calmly and said, You're not going to stop me from eating. His voice was steady, and something in it made the crowd quiet down. Jake's smirk faded slightly. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Marcus's confidence, though small, was growing. He realized that standing up didn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it meant staying calm and refusing to be intimidated. The bullies walked away for now. But Marcus knew this was only the beginning. Every day would bring new challenges, and he would have to stay strong. As he finished his lunch, he looked around the cafeteria, noticing students whispering and watching him. Some looked impressed, others curious. Marcus realized he was slowly changing how people saw him. Cliffhanger. As he left the cafeteria, Marcus noticed Jake lingering near the doorway, staring at him with a cold, calculating look. It was clear he hadn't forgotten, and he was planning something bigger. Marcus's heart raced. The real test was yet to come. After a few days at Lincoln High, Marcus realized one thing clearly. The bullies were not going to stop on their own. Jake and his friends seemed to enjoy making him feel small, and every day brought a new challenge. But Marcus also noticed something he hadn't before: the subtle support from some classmates. A few students would nod at him in the hallway or give him a quiet smile in class. He realized he wasn't completely alone. One afternoon, during history class, Mr. Thompson, a teacher known for noticing the smallest details, called Marcus aside. I saw what happened yesterday, Mr. Thompson said softly, guiding him to a quieter corner of the classroom. You handled yourself very well. Most students would have lost control, but you stayed calm. That shows real strength. Marcus looked up, surprised. Few teachers had ever noticed him. Thank you, he said quietly. Mr. Thompson nodded. Strength is more than fighting. Sometimes it's about showing your skills, your mind, and your character. You have potential, Marcus? Don't let anyone make you feel small. Those words stayed with Marcus all day. He walked home thinking deeply. He realized that fighting back with anger would only make things worse. Instead, he needed to grow in ways the bullies couldn't touch: academics, sports, or other skills. If he became successful, confident, and respected, their insults would lose power. The next day, Marcus decided to act. He joined the school basketball team, a place where talent and effort spoke louder than words. The first practice was intimidating. Older students looked at him suspiciously, and the bullies noticed too. Jake sneered from the sidelines, whispering to his friends. But Marcus didn't let it bother him. Every dribble, every pass, and every shot was a step toward proving himself not to the bullies, but to himself. By the end of the week, Marcus's skills were noticeable. He could keep up with older players and even made a few impressive shots. Students began talking quietly about him. Some admired his focus, while others were surprised that the new kid could be so good at basketball. The bullies noticed the change immediately. Jake's grin now seemed forced. For the first time, Marcus saw hesitation in his eyes. The leader had expected Marcus to be weak, easy to push around, but here he was, proving and gaining attention. During lunch, the girl who had welcomed Marcus earlier noticed his growing confidence. "You're changing," she said with a smile. "Keep going. Don't let them get to you." Marcus nodded, feeling a new sense of determination. He realized that every small victory, whether it was in class, on the basketball court, or even a simple act of confidence, was a step toward showing the bullies that they couldn't control him. That afternoon, Jake confronted Marcus in the hallway again. "You think you're better than us now?" he said, a mixture of anger and disbelief in his voice. Marcus didn't flinch. "I'm not trying to be better. I'm just trying to be myself." Jake's friends exchanged nervous glances. Marcus's calmness confused them. They expected him to yell, to cry, or to run away. But Marcus stood tall, his eyes steady. For a moment, the hallway was silent. Then Jake laughed, a short, harsh laugh hiding his frustration. "This isn't over," he muttered as he walked away. Marcus walked to his next class, feeling a sense of pride he had never felt before. He knew the bullies would try again, but he also knew he had started something they couldn't stop easily. Every day he would grow stronger, smarter, and more confident. Cliffhanger. That evening, Marcus received a note slipped into his locker. It was unsigned but contained a simple message: "You've done well so far, but the real challenge is coming. Be ready." Marcus's heart raced. Who could have left the note, and what did they mean? He knew one thing for sure. Things were about to get even more intense. The following week, tension at Lincoln High had reached a new level. Marcus's growing confidence and skill on the basketball court had not gone unnoticed. Whispers followed him in the hallways, and some students secretly admired him. But for Jake and his friends, admiration turned into jealousy. They could not tolerate the idea of the new kid gaining respect. It all came to a head during gym class. Marcus had been practicing free throws, his focus sharp, when Jake and his group stepped onto the court. They blocked his path, and a small crowd of students began gathering. Sensing that a confrontation was about to happen, Jake smirked. "So, you think you're the star of this school now, huh?" he sneered. "Let's see how good you really are." Marcus took a deep breath. He could feel the eyes of everyone in the gym on him, the players, the classmates, even the teachers. He knew that any reaction he made would be noticed. But instead of fear, a calm determination filled him. He nodded slightly, ready to face the challenge. Jake lunged first, trying to push Marcus off balance. Marcus sidestepped quickly, showing agility and control. The crowd gasped. Jake tried again, attempting to knock the basketball from his hands. But Marcus's movements were precise. He dribbled, passed, and scored a perfect basket. The echo of the ball hitting the hoop seemed to silence the gym for a moment. The students began whispering in amazement. Marcus's confidence was growing with every move, and the bullies were starting to look unsure. He could feel their frustration, but he did not let it show. Instead, he smiled slightly, letting his actions speak louder than words. Jake, red-faced and angry, tried one last aggressive move. He blocked Marcus's way and sneered, "This ends now. You don't belong here." Marcus looked straight into Jake's eyes. "I belong wherever I choose," he said calmly. Then, with quick reflexes, he maneuvered past Jake and made another perfect shot. The gym erupted in cheers. Students clapped and shouted Marcus's name. Even some of the teachers nodded in approval. The Bullies' leader stepped back. Realizing that the new kid was not just skilled, he was unstoppable in his calm determination. Jake's friends began to scatter, embarrassed by the display. Their power over Marcus had vanished in front of everyone. As the gym cleared, Marcus's classmates approached him. A few patted him on the back, and some offered quiet words of admiration. Marcus felt a sense of accomplishment, but remained humble. He knew this victory was not about showing off fit, was about proving that fear and bullying could not control him. During the next class, Marcus noticed the girl who had first welcomed him. She smiled warmly. "You did it. You really showed them." Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of pride. But he also knew that this was just one battle. Jake and his friends might be temporarily silenced, but their resentment had not disappeared. Marcus needed to remain strong, patient, and clever if he wanted to maintain his newfound respect. By the end of the day, news of the gym showdown spread through the school. Students whispered about the new kid who had faced the bullies and won. Marcus walked through the hallways with his head held high, no longer shrinking or avoiding attention. He realized that standing firm in the face of intimidation had earned him something far more important than popularity. It had earned him confidence. Cliffhanger. That evening, as Marcus sat at home reflecting on the day, he found a folded note slipped under his bedroom door. In bold letters it read, "You may have one today, but tomorrow the real test begins. Watch your back." Marcus's heart raced. The bullies were not finished yet, and he knew that his journey was far from over. After the gym showdown, Marcus's life at Lincoln High began to change. Students who once ignored him now whispered his name with a mix of curiosity and admiration. Some even nodded in respect when he passed by. Marcus felt a small sense of victory, but he knew the journey was far from over. The bullies might have been embarrassed, but they had not disappeared. Their anger still simmered beneath the surface. In the following days, Marcus continued to focus on his academics and basketball. Every time he made a good shot or answered a tough question in class, he felt stronger, not just physically, but mentally. He began to realize that his growth was more than just about proving something to the bullies. It was about proving to himself that he could face challenges without letting fear control him. Some students started approaching Marcus for advice. A few younger students who had been bullied began sharing their experiences, and Marcus listened patiently. He offered kind words and encouragement, showing that he could lead by example. Slowly, Marcus became more than just the new kid. He became a symbol of quiet strength, but the bullies were far from done. Jake, still bitter from the gym incident, began plotting ways to regain his status. One day during lunch, Marcus noticed something troubling. One of his classmates, someone he had begun trusting, was laughing with Jake's group and whispering secrets. Marcus felt a sudden sting of betrayal. He hadn't expected this. Instead of confronting the friend immediately, Marcus observed quietly. He realized that not everyone who seemed friendly had pure intentions. Some people were swayed by peer pressure, by fear, or by the desire to fit in. Marcus reminded himself to stay focused, to trust his instincts, and to continue standing tall no matter what. Despite these challenges, Marcus's confidence continued to grow. He excelled in basketball practice. His teammates started to respect him. And even some of the teachers noticed his determination and maturity. Slowly, Marcus's reputation shifted. People began to see him not as the new kid, but as someone who could not be easily intimidated one afternoon. As Marcus walked down the hallway, he noticed whispers following him again. But this time it was different. Students were smiling, some waving. He realized that his efforts were having an impact. Respect was replacing fear. People were beginning to admire his courage and determination. However, the tension with the bullies remained. Jake was not someone who accepted defeat easily. Marcus knew that at any moment Jake or his friends could try something new to assert their power. Marcus had to stay alert. Every day brought new challenges, and he had to be prepared for them. That evening, Marcus reflected on the events of the week. He thought about the victories, the small friendships he had built, and the lessons he had learned. He also remembered the betrayal of the friend who had sided with the bullies in secret. Marcus realized that not every challenge came from obvious threats. Some came from the people who seemed closest. Instead of feeling discouraged, Marcus decided to use this as a lesson. He would continue to grow stronger, to focus on his goals, and to show kindness and integrity regardless of who betrayed him. He knew that true strength was about resilience and the ability to rise above setbacks. Cliffhanger. As Marcus prepared for the next day, he noticed a shadow outside his window. A folded piece of paper was slipped under the door. It read, "You're getting strong, but the real test is coming soon." Don't get comfortable. Marcus's pulse quickened. Who had left the note, and what challenge awaited him? One thing was certain. He was no longer the same timid new kid. The next battle would test not only his skills, but his courage and determination like never before. The final week of the semester had arrived, and Lincoln High felt different to Marcus. He walked through the hallways with his head held high, confident but still aware of the challenges around him. The bullies, Jake and his friends, had grown cautious. They realized that Marcus was not just strong, but also clever, patient, and respected by many students and teachers. Marcus's reputation had spread far beyond the basketball court. In class, teachers began to call on him more often, appreciating his quick thinking and focus. Students approached him for advice on schoolwork, sports, and even personal problems. Marcus felt proud, not because he had defeated the bullies, but because he had grown into someone who inspired others. One afternoon, the school announced a special inter-class basketball match. Marcus's team was facing Jake's group. The entire gym was packed, students buzzing with excitement. Marcus felt a familiar tension in his chest, but instead of fear, it was determination. This was the moment that would prove everything, not just skill, but character. The game started, and it was intense from the first whistle. Jake tried his usual intimidation tactics, pushing and taunting, but Marcus remained calm. Each dribble, each pass, and each shot was precise. Marcus's teammates followed his lead, motivated by his courage and focus. Slowly, his team began to pull ahead, surprising even the teachers and spectators. Jake's frustration grew with every successful move Marcus made. He shouted insults, tried to block Marcus aggressively, and even attempted to manipulate the referee, but nothing worked. Marcus had prepared himself not just for the game, but for the pressure, the ridicule, and the mental challenge. Halfway through the match, Marcus made an incredible three-point shot. The gym erupted in cheers. Students who had once doubted him were now clapping and shouting his name. Even some of Jake's friends looked impressed, a hint of respect replacing their scorn. Marcus felt a surge of confidence. This was not just a win for the game, it was a win for every moment he had endured. Every insult he had ignored, every time he had refused to back down. As the final minutes approached, Marcus's team maintained their lead. Jake tried one last desperate move to disrupt him, but Marcus anticipated it, moved skillfully, passed the ball to a teammate who scored the winning basket. The final whistle blew, and the gym exploded in applause. Marcus's team lifted him onto their shoulders, celebrating his leadership and skill. After the game, Marcus walked through the hallways, feeling a sense of peace. The bullies were quiet, their power over him gone. Some approached him cautiously, offering apologies or grudging respect. Marcus nodded politely, showing that he had risen above anger and revenge. He had proved that strength came from courage, determination, and integrity, not from bullying or intimidation. Later that evening, Marcus reflected on the journey. He thought about the first day when he had felt small and alone. He remembered the whispers, the laughter, and the fear. Now, he realized how far he had come. He had faced bullies, overcome betrayal, built respect, and grown stronger mentally, emotionally, and physically. He had become unstoppable not because he had defeated others, but because he had conquered his own doubts and fears. Closing message. Marcus understood something important. Life would always have challenges, bullies, and obstacles. But true strength came from perseverance, self-belief, and kindness. No one could take that away. He knew that he would face other challenges in the future, but nothing could shake the confidence he had built. As Marcus looked out of his window that night, he smiled. The journey had been hard, but he was proud of who he had become. He was no longer just the new kid. He was a symbol of courage, determination, and the power to rise above adversity.